Yes, you see this Senator Natasha Akpabio drama. Let me tell Nigerians and the world at large what the Senate and the Nigerian federal government in general are aiming by constantly supporting Akpabio against the lady. They all have a game plan which they are executing perfectly well. And what it is, the lady came out to accuse the Senate president of sexually harassing her, right? That was a complaint. Whether we agree or not, that complaint requires an attention. It requires a committee to be looked into. But as we speak now, everything that is being done is to make sure that that accusation goes down naturally and never heard of. That is it. I see every quarters, most especially when I listen to the eloquent speaking comrade Adams Ali Oshomole spoke on the day the suspension was finally passed. He said everything about Natasha going as humble as apologizing to the house, that it will not reduce who she is, that apology doesn't reduce who you are. Why were they all technically wanting the lady to apologize? Because the moment she apologized, it becomes a fact that she originally laid false accusation. So I believe the Senator Duagan, from what I also read, is a barrister, should know better. You get the point? Why are you trying to force her to apologize? She laid a complaint. Okay, and as for those Nigerians, those gullible Nigerians out there that is being blinded by sentiment, because when you are supporting Akpabio in this case, you are just being sentimental. I am supporting Senator Uduaghan until she's proven wrong. Whenever she's proven wrong, you will see myself and maybe other well-meaning Nigerians turn the whip on her. I want a situation where the Senate would have said, okay, this lady has come out with an allegation. Let's find out if it is true or it's a lie. And if she turns out to have lied against the Senate president, then you watch us take on her. But that's not the case. They don't even want us to know what happened. So many idiots out there asking, does she have evidence? How can a lady of that personality and caliber lay such accusations without evidence? Of course, I have every reason to believe that she has evidence, countless of evidence. That's why the Senate has refused to look into her petition. Rather, they just threw it away and sent her packing. So I don't get it. Now look at, to make it concrete, to make it obvious that Senator Natasha is not going to serve that 6 months suspension. Take my word for it, and I have my reasons. It was only yesterday I heard that the presidency have shown interest in the case, that they are going to try and look into it. And today I just read, like I'm displaying now, I just read on the Vanguard newspaper that it says we will broker peace between Akpabio and Akpoti Uduaghan, Tinubu's minister. That was, it's on the Vanguard. I believe it will also be on other media. He said they will broker peace. Which peace are you going to broker? Presidency. Because everything you guys are trying to do now is, at the end of the day, you are going to bring these people into a round table and say, Mona dialogue the matter, Mona resolve the matter, case closed, they don't settle. We will no longer know if Akpabio will actually harass this woman. That is my area of concern. Let there be an independent investigation. If the lady have lied, she should be punished. That would be a crime to have accused the number 3 citizens of a crime he did not commit. Are you going to throw that under the carpet? So you going the route you guys are going now is actually proving Akpabio to be guilty. Otherwise, as we speak now, even when we are not on his side, but he is still innocent until proven guilty. Now, to prove Akpabio innocent, you must find Natasha guilty of lying, of accusing the Senate president wrongly. But nobody is walking towards that direction. Everything they are doing is just to die the matter, and nobody will know what happened and what did not happen. And they will tell you the Senate has resolved it. That is an in-house matter. If this lady have lied against Senator Akpabio, will it go this way? It will not go the way it's going now. So we all know the truth. And I want to ask the Nigerian Senate, is that how you're going to fix this country? When somebody rises in that Senate to say things as they are, you hammer them suspension. We know when it happens to Senator Ali Ndume, when he accused some members of the Senate of being a kleptomania, stealing what they actually don't need. We all know that most of these senators steal what they don't need. It is in this country you will see a senator having in his compound transformers that were made for his constituency. He will just store it in their compound, electric cable. That what are they going to do with it? So they were actually kleptomanias, as Ali Ndume accused them of. But what was the reaction? Ali Ndume was also suspended and made to write a letter of apology before he was reinstated. But his position as the chief whip leader was taken from him. Well, I think I also remember Adams Oshomole, when he just newly entered into the Senate, he complained about him buying his own chairs and other things. That people saying the Senate get allowance for this, that wasn't correct, that the chair is sitting and other things in his office he bought with his money. The Senate reacted bitterly to it and said that the Senate matter, there's an in-house way of resolve. What occultic group are you forming in that house? Is that how you are representing us? Nigerians, we should look into this matter and look into the affairs of these people. We were supposed to, No, we didn't send them there actually. They didn't go there by our votes. I didn't forget that. They got there on their own. But if they are there on their own, not useful to us, I think it's hard time we start thinking of how to stop them from going there. Because I remember there was a time Senegal have to do away with their Senate to survive. Our Senate has been a burden and making this country without return. Nigerians should start looking to that direction.
So guys, before I get to take a look at another section of this same issue about investigating Akpabio, because to me, I keep on saying it, that Akpabio does not have the right to sit on that seat until proven not guilty. Because for now, the both are guilty, and there must be a thorough investigation to know who is not guilty and who gets punished. If Akpabio is not guilty, then they should punish Natasha. If it's the other way around, then Akpabio must go punished. That's how simple it is. But how they are treating it now, like Raman said, it's not looking as if it's a cultish something. Like they are planning something, they are planning to resolve it inside. And then what happens to the masses, we will need to know who is guilty. If this man is truly a sexual harasser, like he should harass women, let us know the kind of person we have in our Senate meeting. Simple as that. Let me let you guys take a live video and then we can continue from there.
What does the law say about the suspension of a member of a legislative assembly? Can the legislative house suspend a member of that house if the member is deemed to have violated the rules of the house?
Well, Charles, the answer of no is so notorious that even the deaf by now should have known that the power to suspend a member of parliament have consistently been pronounced upon by our superior courts of records, including the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the Apex Court. I have the privilege, for instance, to have stood in for a member of Kogi State House of Assembly who was suspended for moving a motion that the then government was unable to pay salary for his people. He was threatened with suspension. He went to court, and indeed to show the audacity of arrogance of a violation of our laws, the parliament then suspended him from his legislative duties and stopped his salaries and allowances. And so we were angry, we went to court. My Lord, the Honorable Justice Josiah Majebi J, as he then was, now Chief Judge of Kogi State, saw his way clear and declared that no member of the Legislative Houses of Assembly can be suspended or restricted from performing his legislative duty on account of internal rules of Parliament. The Kogi State House of Assembly was not satisfied with that decision, appealed to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal said that the procedure that I employed in commencing the action, which was originating in someone, was wrong, and so remitted the case back to the Chief Judge of Kogi State for the matter to be commenced by writ of summons. I was not satisfied, my client was not satisfied, and so we approached the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, in the case of Elder Friday Sani versus Kogi State House of Assembly, reported in 2019, Law Pavilion Electronic Report, came down heavily and made a pronouncement. And my Lord, the Honorable Justice Walter Onoge, JSC then, as he then was, later CJN, now retired, was profound in his view. And my Lord held, and I quote, "And I am of the considered view that this appeal succeeds in part and order as follows: that the judgment of the court below be and is hereby set aside, that the judgment of the trial court be and is hereby restored and affirmed, that the respondent be and are hereby ordered to pay the appellants all his salaries and allowances, emoluments and money due to him, and to allow him to resume his legislative duties forthwith," unquote.
But is that a general sort of precedent rule, or is it specific to that particular
No,
case?
the relief we sought in that case was that the respondent, which is the House of Assembly, had no right to suspend or
under any circumstance.
On any circumstance.
Right.
It was granted. But before we miss the reasons why I'm so ashamed of the circumstances we found ourselves. Senator Natasha Akpabio was accused of a breach of the rules of the Senate. Not that her petition was attended to, found to be unmeritorious. And so as of today, Charles, you and I and all Nigerians are in the dark as to whether or not Senator Natasha Akpabio's allegations was right or wrong. But that is beside the point. Now, Natasha Akpabio was said to have breached the rules of the Senate. Now, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in dealing with Senator Natasha Akpabio, committed grievous constitutional sacrilege when, first, the Senate President, who is the accused person, presided over the proceeding in which Senator Natasha Akpabio laid her petition. Two, the Senate President was the one that said, is there any impediment for the reception of this petition? And the answer that I heard was saying no. The same Senate President was the one that later on presided over the proceeding in which the petition that was laid was found to be did not follow the procedure for laying of petition, that it was signed by Senator Natasha Akpabio. It should have been signed by another senator. The same Senator Akpabio, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, was the one that referred the conduct of Senator Natasha Akpabio to the Ethics and Privileges Committee of the House of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The same Senator Akpabio was the person that appointed the chairman of the Ethics Committee of the House of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. After all said and done, the same Ethics and Privileges of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria brought in the report. Senator Akpabio was the presiding officer that determined the fate and the viability of the report. He was the one that reeled out and hit the gavel that Senator Natasha Akpabio be suspended for 6 months. Then in the second part of the motion, which I think you had, everybody had, was whether or not in the punishment reeled out by the person who was accused, the person who was the presiding officer, the person who was the judge, and the person to whom the report was sent to, was whether or not Senator Natasha Akpabio was to have, before she resumed her legislative duty, put in a written apology to the. I heard with my ears, and I'm sure Nigerians heard, that the nay was higher than the I, but the Senate President said the ayes have it. Why did I say so? That that procedure was more grievous than the allegation against Senator Natasha Akpabio. Section 36, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, which is the ground norm of Nigeria, says that in the determination of one's civil rights and obligation, the person shall be entitled to fair hearing within a reasonable time by a court or tribunal constituted in such a manner so as to ensure its impartiality. In other words, Nigeria operates the rule of law, and under the rule of law, there are twin pillars of that law. The principles of nemo jude in case sua. You can't be a judge in your own cause. The principle that you cannot condemn a person on hard holding utterance party. There is also a principle of law which was propounded by my Lord late Justice Philip Nnemeka Agu, that when in the governor in the governor of Lagos State by Chief Emeka Odumegwu, that where parties have turned over their dispute to a court, none of the parties should do anything to undermine the authority of the court. I am aware that in the procedure leading to they sending Senator Natasha Akpabio to the Ethics Committee, and in the procedure of the House, that National Assembly took judicial notice of the point that Senator Natasha Akpabio had filed a litigation in court.
Right.
The same National Assembly or the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria refused to acknowledge the order of the Federal High Court stopping the Ethics and Privileges Committee from proceeding with the matter. In other words, for you to see how the institution that's supposed to be the institution that makes law for us desecrated the Nigerian Constitution on primordial partisan interest, they ignore the court order. And the principles of law of considerable antiquity that I know is that no person, however highly placed, including the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, can sit under the comfort of his office and say that an order of court duly issued by a court is without jurisdiction. You can't say so.
Right. Well,
if you decide to say so,
right,
then it's an invitation to chaos and anarchy.
Let me ask you for clarification on that point, because you are a senior advocate of Nigeria and you speak from an informed position. You're well accomplished as a legal eagle in this country. Let's be ineluctably clear. Was the Senate within its rights to proceed regardless of that Federal High Court restraining order? Because their argument is that under Section 60 of the Constitution, they ought to be able to operate and define their own rules and procedures.
I will answer your question by asking a question. If they had respect for pendency of a case at one breath, what suddenly changed when it came to punishing Senator Natasha Akpabio that they have no respect for pending matter? The rules of the Senate that I know is that once there is a pending matter in court, they should not deliberate on the matter. The question you should ask yourself, and they should answer, is that was there a court order? Were they served? They acknowledge that they were served. Look, Charles, I'm very serious about this matter. The Senate President is a lawyer. The chairman of the Ethics and Privileges Committee is a lawyer. There are seasoned lawyers in that house. The duty we owe is the duty to demonstrate civility and respect and fidelity to the rules of law and the code of conduct for the legal profession. Whether a lawyer is a politician or is acting in court is bound by the rules of professional conduct. So when our conduct suggests that we undermine an institution, the judicial institution, to the extent that we can choose and pick which pending litigation we should respect, which one not to respect, especially when done by those who have been called to the bar, then when market men and women chose to desecrate the court of the land, what will you say? So as a minister in the temple of justice, therefore, more responsibility is expected of us.
Yeah.
My worry and my quarrel is not whether or not Natasha Akpabio is right or is wrong, Senate President is right or is wrong. For every allegation, the investigative apparatus for that allegation must not itself be a person that is with vested interest, with propensity and temptation for revenge. That's why Chief Justice Best said that justice must not only be done, but be manifestly be seen to have been done. Question you should ask yourself is, will the right thinking member of the society go away believing that the petition of Senator Natasha Akpabio that was summarily dismissed was fairly treated, given that the presiding officer was the person against whom the allegation was made?
Well, let me clarify some points here, because their argument is that the issue before them, although she handed in a petition about the sexual harassment issue, but that the issue before them was not actually about sexual harassment, but about her persistent misconduct and disregard for Senate rules and gross indiscipline. They say, let me just make the point, they say she refused to adhere to the sitting arrangement.
Yes.
Do you believe that this was why she was suspended, or do you share the conviction of those who insist that she was suspended because of her sexual harassment allegations against the Senate president? Because those two issues seem to be overlapping, and the Senate are very keen to separate them.
I am here to speak about the allegations against Senator Natasha Akpabio of her insubordination, so to speak, in not accepting the sitting arrangement and speaking when not recognized. Who accused her of doing so? The Senate president. Who referred her to the ethics committee of the Senate president? Did Senator Natasha Akpabio go to court to say, I will not have a fair hearing, putting it in a more African proverb, that I am going to a garden of chicken and I cockroach, I will not be expecting to have fair hearing? Because in the garden of chicken, cockroach cannot be expected to have fair hearing. So she, reasonably entertaining the fear that she will not be properly treated, she rushed to an institution created by Section 6 of the Constitution that is a specialist in adjudication with impartiality as the attributes of the judges sitting there. Then you say, no, I will deal with you. Because when a man is accused of wrongdoing, it has gone outside the realm of the rules of the Senate. It has now brought the right to fair hearing, which is in chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution. Right. And even the Almighty God did not condemn Adam on earth. Adam, where art thou? Have thou eaten of the fruit whereof I say thou shalt not eat? Adam had a defense. The woman you gave me, I was resting on my own. You gave me this woman. He asked the woman says snake. He heard them before passing judgment. So if God that is all-knowing could give fair hearing in the Garden of Eden, then what do you say about women?
Okay, we're almost out of time, and I want to just come in here briefly and ask you a couple more questions. So based on what you've now told us, it is legally safe to conclude that the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpabio is illegal.
I have no power to conclude, but it appears to be so.
Right.
Because the power to conclude that it is illegal, but I can say confidently that based on what we call stare decisis, precedence of our superior courts, is likely to come to be the outcome.
Right. People like yourself, people like Femi Falana and others have called for the lifting of the suspension without delay. What happens if the Senate refuses to do so?
Natasha should go to court. Because, let me tell you, Charles, the reason why we do what we do in Nigeria and appear to get away with, like I put up in my write-up, is that there is not that there are want of precedents, but the power that believes, and wrongly too in my view, that they are above the law of the land. They can do anything and there are no consequences. Otherwise, if Nigeria is a country where consequences are visited on people, everyone, particularly those who have the legal training, that fail to properly guide the Senate of the Federal Republic, that what you are about doing will bring a boomerang and embarrassing effect to the nation, would have advised them and not doing so. But what do I know? Because you are accusing a member of parliament of an infinitesimal breach of your rules that is just like a subsidiary legislation, and you have now in a geometrical proportion violated violently the provisions of Nigerian Constitution that gives adjudication and judicial power to the court, and the fact that in the determination of a dispute, even in administrative inquiry, you must respect the rule of law. Have we? Look, let me tell you that
Very briefly,
the rule of
we're
law
out of time now.
is the
Yeah.
bedrock of democracy. But our politicians preach the rule of law, but they practice rule of self-convenience.
Right. As a final question, and very briefly, do you think anything should happen to the ethics committee? I mean, does anything ever happen to people who make the decisions that you feel are wrong?
Make anything to happen? That's why we must begin somewhere, and I think that it is time now, particularly those of us who have a higher calling, whose qualification is just not mere secondary school or its equivalent, who have been admitted to practice law in Nigeria, that our professional association should start holding us responsible, and Nigeria should start holding us responsible, because if we desecrate the Nigerian constitution, then authoritarianism becomes the real thing. And at the last time I checked the definition of democracy, authoritarianism and despotism were not part of the attribute of democracy.
Indeed.
In democratic setup, the freedom to speak and to be heard undiluted are part of the attribute of democracy. And so if we must not allow our democracy to suffer shipwreck, then it is time for us to respect our constitution.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. You've made the points most forcefully, and we appreciate that. Jibrin Samuel Okutepa is a senior advocate of Nigeria and also a prolific advocate of legislative and judicial reform. Thank you very much.
So guys, I think it's very simple. Very simple. Akpabio did not have the right to suspend Natasha because he himself was among the case, because they wrote a petition against him. He has no right to carry out that judgment. He have no right to suspend Natasha, because you cannot be suspending somebody that accused you of sexual harassment. There should be a thorough investigation. Let us know if you are truly not guilty. If you are not guilty, they should seriously punish Natasha for accusing a Senate president. But if you are guilty, you should be punished for sexually harassing a senator. And he was saying something about that she thinks is about beauty. Leave her to be beautiful. You have your wife. You are married. Why not go to your wife and do anything you want to do to your wife than sexually harass somebody? Because how this is going is looking as if this is true. Because if this is a lie, this thing would have been going different route. If assuming Natasha was wrong, believe me, this thing would have been going different routes by now. It's very simple like that. You should be going a different direction from now, assuming Natasha was wrong. This is not how the senators will be handling this case. They will make sure that they punish Natasha so well. But now all they did was suspension, which is all they could do to cover their sin. But Natasha said that she will not agree until judgment is out. That means this woman have a valid proof that will prove to the world that this man is guilty of what he's accused of. But the government knows, but they don't want to bring it out for the masses to know. But the truth must come out. One thing I'm sure that you can never hide the truth for so long. It will still come out. So like I said, your views in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe. It's your boy again. Stay tuned, guys.